Hello, my name is Daniel Lee, and I teach next door in room 305. I'm teaching the same course, the Intro to Computer Science using CodeHS, and I'm going to introduce your final project. Your final project is going to be a choose your own adventure program, and in order to get to it, you can get to my website here. The URL is up in the top left corner, and you want to click on additional projects. So I'm going to click on additional projects. We get here, and we have choose your own adventure. You can look and you can see there's a rubric here, right? So if you click on that, the rubric is extremely simple. It's just whether you have these elements in your program or not, and then there are some extra credit opportunities as well. And so how does choose your own adventure work? Well, I'm not sure about all of you guys, but with Robin and myself, we grew up in the age of books, right? Like paperback books, and there were a set of children's books that were called Choose Your Own Adventure that were very popular, right? And so you can see some of the covers here. You can tell by the artwork that they're very dated. But they were interesting because they weren't just regular books that told a story. They told a story, and then when you got to the end of the page at the bottom, it said, would you like the main character to go to the lunch with Caroline, or would you like the main character to go to the store with Bob? Right? And then if you wanted to go with Caroline, you would go turn to page 43. If you wanted to go with Bob, you would turn to page 53. And so that way you can control the way that the story moved forward and progressed. Right? And so that's what we're going to recreate in our project. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Right? Here's one. I'm going to run it. And so you can see here that they print out a title, right? Hunted, a choose your own adventure story, and then they give you a little bit of text along with a choice, right? What would you want to do? Would you want to open the cellar door, dun dun dun, or would you go back downstairs and try to escape, right? And so the way that excuse me, the way that this group had completed their assignment is they made it a game, right? So they were stuck in a cellar, and the goal of the game is to get yourself out of the cellar. Okay, great. And so like I'm here and I want to either choose A or choose B, and so if I want to risk opening the cellar door, I choose A and hit enter. And it says, oh, you managed to escape, and it continues the story and then continues to offer another two set of choices. Right? And so that's going to continue and continue, and some choices are going to lead to probably a death, right? Because this sounds kind of like an ominous story. And then some choices are going to eventually lead to you escaping the cellar, right? And the serial killer who is actively searching for you. Okay, and so this is one way that you can do the adventure story. This is the standard way. This is the way that the books that me and Robin have been reading in our childhood went, and this is something that you can put together. Right? And let's go ahead and look at the mechanics of it. Right? Well, we all know about the start function. Right? That's where our compiler or our interpreter begins the code. Right? So it looks through all of this and it looks for the start function. It runs it here until it gets to line 13 and it ends the program. So what we're going to do is we're going to use printline to print out the beginning part of the story, and then you're going to read in a choice from the user. Right? They're going to hit A or B, and the variable choice is going to be equal to A or B. Choice, we made it global, right, outside of the function, just so that we wouldn't need to pass it in as an argument to the function part 2, and we wouldn't need to receive it as a parameter in function part 2. Right? So just to make life easier, we made the variable global. So that all the functions will be able to access it without having to pass it in as arguments. Okay, and so after they read in their choice, well, the way that I typically thought about it was that this function part 2, the contents of it here, would be actually up here on line 12, right? Where you say if their choice is equal to A, then do this stuff. Else if their choice is equal to B, then do this stuff. But you can arrange it however you'd like, and the way that Sabella arranged it was she ran the function part 2, and in function part 2 it said if choice is equal to A, then it printed out the next part of the story, and then at the end it read in their second choice, right, A or B, and then it went to part 3. If they chose B on the on the first choice, right, then it would go into this branch of the else if statement, and it would print out this portion of the story where they are going through the cellar door. And so they go through the cellar door, and you slip on moss, and you sprain your ankle. Well, what would you want to do, A or B? And now you're going to read in A or B, and choice is going to be equal to A or B, and you're going to run function part 4, which will take you down to here. Right? So it's basically that same process, continuing and continuing until you get to the end of the story. And so I think that that should be pretty clear. And if you have any questions, you can always go ahead and drop by my classroom. I'm next door, and ask me a question. Or I think you have a couple of people who are experts in your room that will be able to help you out. Right? And so that's the way that this goes. Let's see, is there anything else I should say here? No, I think that's about it, right? One thing I want to talk about is on the rubric, it says that you should have at least 15 nodes with at least 4 sentences per stage, right? And so you might be like, what's a node and what's a stage? And so the way that I was thinking about it is, this is kind of hard to do without a graphical, so let me put here online Photoshop. Yeah, I'm just trying to get a program where I could draw, because it would make a lot more sense if I drew something. Oh no, this is not going to do it. Let's do online paint. Alright, so if we think about our story, we have, here's our first node, right? This is what I'm going to call a node, because this is the beginning where we have our title and the beginning portion of our story and the first set of choices, right? A or B. And if they choose A, then the program's going to go this way. If they choose B, the program's going to go this way. And if they chose A, then we're going to get to the second part of the story, along with the program asking the user what they want to do, A or B. And from here, it's going to either go here or go this way, depending on their choice at the end of the story, right? Or that portion of the story. And so we're going to have another 2 set of nodes. Right? And so when I say that we need 15 nodes, well, if you go ahead and extend this model to have 4 stages. So let me just go ahead and do that. Right? And so by a stage, I mean, here's one stage, and then we make a choice, and here's the second stage, and then we make a choice, and here's the third stage, and we make a choice, and here's the fourth stage. Right? So essentially, this is what I would like from you, right? When I say 4 stages, for your ending program to look something like this structurally. So if you count up all the nodes, I believe it's 15, it might be 16, but have 15 nodes and 4 stages, right? But of course I understand that maybe you make a choice where your character dies. Like, what if your character died right here? Okay, well, he died, and that means that this portion of the story or this portion of the diagram wouldn't exist. And so since this wouldn't exist, well, what I'm looking for is that all together you'll have 15 nodes in your story. Okay, so it might not look exactly like this where you get to an ending for each choice that the person makes. But if this portion doesn't exist because the character dies, then I would like you to continue here, right? And so in total, there to be 15 nodes. And for each node to contain 4 sentences, at least 4 sentences. Okay? And so that's the standard rubric, and if you do that, then you'll get full credit. And now I want to go over some of the interesting products or projects, programs that some of the students made that might give you ideas on what you can do for your own Choose Your Own Adventure Lab. And so this was a standard one. And let me go ahead and move over here. And so you can notice here, oh my goodness, hold on. Okay, so you'll notice here like it prints out some instruction and some story, right? And it says either choose one or two to make a decision, and I'm going to hit OK to get to the next part of the story. And it's going to get to the next part, right? Talking about how this game is set up, and I hit the next part. Right? And so you look here and you say, it says, would you like to play as Ian Faraday, which is an easier way to play the game, or would you rather play as Wesley Wyndham, which is a significantly harder way of playing the game, right? And so you're gonna either choose one or two. And so what this person did is they created two separate choose your own adventures using the same story but two different perspectives, right? And so you're trying to win the game, and it actually like adds an added dimension to your story. So that might be something that you would want to do. And since this project, I'm not sure if I mentioned, is going to be available as a group project with a maximum number of 3 people in the group. This might be a way that 2 people can put together a choose your own adventure and make it a little bit more interesting. Right? So one person might write the choose your own adventure for Ian Faraday, and the second person might want to write the choose your own adventure for the Wesley Price perspective. And then when you guys are both finished, you can put it together and create something similar to what Greg did. And so you also want to notice that each time in the story, I'm asking for an input there, but here it's printing out the beginning portion of the story and says, will he break the case or will it break him? Right? And then the program waits for me to hit enter before it prints out the next portion of the story. Right? So that way you're feeding the user a little portion of the story at a time, and they need to hit enter to get to the next portion. And I'm reading, and I hit the next portion, and I'm reading, I hit the next portion. So this is just a way that you can get the user to be fed the story a piece at a time. And so how did Greg do that? Well, what he did is every time he printed out a part of the story, he did it as a read line, right? And he, took it in using a variable. But this variable writer, he didn't use. It was just, a variable that was used to read in the enter without any input. But that writer variable was not used in a branch, right? It wasn't until he asked the user to enter in a choice, like he did here, either choose one or choose two, and then he saved that in the variable starter, and then he used the starter variable to make a decision in his program. Okay. So that's one way you might be able to do it. I'm going to close that. Here's another way that someone did it. And so this is Nathan. I'm not sure if you know him, but he was, I think about 70% done with the curriculum. And so he got past the the graphics and games, I believe, chapter. And in that chapter, he learned how to make it so that you can click on an object, right? Like a rectangle, you can click on it and have it run a function. So in this story, what he did is he had these text objects where he wrote text and you could click on the text. Let me run the program. Here we go. It says play or menu, and so I'm going to click on menu. And so this is the outline of his story, right? He has the beginning, then the house, and room 1, 2, 3, 4, and a secret. So I'm going to go back. And so do I want to play? Yes, of course I want to play. So I click on play and it begins. You just got up. You can see there's a timer here at the bottom, right? What do I want to do? Follow the man or look around? I'm going to follow the man. You follow the man into the building. I'm going to continue. Okay, so I'll continue. You see there are 4 rooms, and you notice if I click here on the outside, nothing happens. But if I click on room 4 or any of these rooms, oh no, right? So I guess the time ran out, so I died, right? So I'm going to restart. He has a little animation of the blood going down the screen. So I hit play, follow the man. Yes, I want to follow the man. Continue. Go to room 4. And so now I'm presented with some information, and I could either check the bookshelf or I could check the painting, right? And so on. And so this was something that he created that you might want to create if you know how to do this, right? If you have gotten to this portion in the curriculum. So this would make for a very interesting choose your own adventure, especially if you had more text, right? All right, so that's one way to do it. And then another way you can do it is you could do something like this. So let me run this program. So this program was built in Python, and I did it in my other class where we're using the Python simulator. The Python language to build our programs. And let me start over. So I press play, and it says Hero wakes up in his bedroom. Daniel, wake up. Monsters are attacking the village. What would you like to do? Run for the hills, grab your dagger, or grab your parents' gold and make a run for it, right? So I'm going to hit 3. I'm going to steal my parents' money and run. So I looted my parents' gil. My gil has increased to 150. Well, great. And now I'm running along, and it's talking about these men who are running to help protect the village. Oh, I'm sorry. These are men who are attacking the village. Barrel rolls towards the hero, and now I see a flash of tunic, and suddenly see all blue, which is me on my back looking up at the sky. My energy's decreased to 0 HP. I can no longer continue, and I've died. And so depending on your different choices here, you can either increase your gil, you can buy items, you can increase your energy by eating a potion or eating some berries, and then that affects whether you continue on in the story, right? Your HP, if it's at 0, well, you're dead, and if it's at 100, then you're at full energy. And so this is another way you can do it, right? You can make it like a text-based RPG game. And the way that I did this was, again, this is in Python, but yeah, I guess I could just talk about it. What you would want to do is you would want to have a set of global variables, right? And each one would be like HP. One would be HP, one would be like money or gil, another would be weapon, possibly. And as you go along in the story, depending on what his choices are, you're either going to decrement or increment the value of the different global variables that you have for this character, right? So for instance, if they choose to sack the parents' gold and escape down the well, well then in that branch, you're going to say the global gil variable, you're going to say equals, maybe I could write it here. Okay, well, maybe I could write it here, and you're going to say the global gil variable, let's say if I had gil as a variable, you're going to say is equal to gil plus 50, right? Because I earned 50 gil by stealing from my parents, right? And then maybe after you do that, you can also print out a set of text saying your gil has increased to, and then I think it's plus gil, and then maybe I can put out an exclamation point. And so this way you can have a set of statistics for your character, and you can modify them based on their choices that they've made, right? And so let's pretend like this was their life, right, or their health. And so let's go ahead and put health here, and let's put health, and let's say they made a decision that was negatively affected their health, and so decremented their health by 50, and so you could say your health, health is now and I'm going to print out health, right? So let's say you incremented their health, and now you want to check if they're dead or not, right? And so what you could do is you could now here is say you can have a function called check dead. And so, of course, this is just me writing notes. I hope you can get the picture of what I'm trying to do here. And now you're going to have a function called function check dead. Of course, this is just me writing like scratch paper, right? This is not the exact code that you would enter in your editor, right? And so here we have check dead, and here in check dead you would say you would have a branch statement, and you would have something like if health is less than or equal to 0, then what are you going to do? You're going to print line, right? Hero can no longer continue, right? And so he has died. And maybe, okay. And then also, if that's the case, you can maybe also just exit the program, right? And so I'm not sure exactly what the syntax is in JavaScript to get that done, but in Python, you could just say exit and it'll stop the program, right? I think a quick Google search on what the syntax is or what the wording is to get the program to end in JavaScript would help you out with that command, right? But yeah, this is what you would want to do, right? So you're gonna every time you change the person's health, you probably want to run check dead to see if they're dead or not, right? And if you want to end the program or not. And so that's another way that you can do it. Right? And so yeah. I hope you guys have fun with it, right? My other class had fun with it, and what you're going to do is you're going to spend the next week and a half or so, right? That's how much time we have left in the class, I believe, right? You can spend the next week and a half or so building this program, and then the last day of the class, you will have a peer grading exercise where you'll go around and play each other's games. Right? Well, I hope you have fun, and maybe I'll come by when you have your demonstration, and I could play some of your games. All right, bye.